I was going to introduce you, but you know how to make an entrance. Have a seat. Thank you so much. A man who needs no introduction. Hello. We're going to introduce the panel in a moment. I'd love to bring up, actually, to introduce the panel, we have here Steve Meng, who is an accomplished award-winning filmmaker, another one of our hosts for tonight, to share some words and introduce the panel.
Hey, everyone. How you doing? It's so nice to see such a full crowd here. I'm Steve Meng. I'm a filmmaker. It is an incredible honor to be one of the hosts here tonight for this film. It's also an honor to be standing next to these incredible human beings. I think this film is such like a remarkable piece of work and art. It expresses this kind of art in compassion and forgiveness, and how important storytelling can be in our dialogue as human beings in civil society. So thank you for coming. I hope everyone sticks around for the Q&A. There's going to be a reception in the lobby to continue the conversation. So take care.
Thank you. And just to thank our amazing panel for being here, first of all, the director, Joshua Seftel, is up there with us. Might be virtual, but Josh, do you want to share the good news, just the most exciting news about your most recent executive producer?
Sure. Well, thank you everyone for being. I wish I could be there with you, but we have some exciting news that we just learned a couple of days ago, which is that we have a new partner in this film. Malala has come on board as an executive producer, and she is championing the film and making sure that it reaches as many people as possible. So we're very excited about that.
So we have here Aniqa Nawabi, who's the executive director of Muslim Network Community, of the Muslim Community Network, who will be moderating the conversation. You, of course, know Mac McKinney over here from the film. Suzanne Hillinger is the producer of the film. Thank you so much for being here. And Pam Haas is the executive director of Facing History and Ourselves, who's joining us as well. I also wanted to acknowledge Dr. Conrad Fisher, who's another executive producer of the film, who's here with us. Conrad, where are you? There he is, up there. And Aniqa, I'm going to hand things over to you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, and thank you for this opportunity to speak to this distinguished panel, as well as the audience members. This documentary means so much to the Muslim community, to, I'm sure, many other faith communities. And so thank you to the producer and Josh for doing this. It's amazing. My name is Aniqa Nawabi. I'm the executive director of the Muslim Community Network. We are a citywide nonprofit organization with the mission of shaping the narrative for what it means to be Muslim in the United States of America. Because this story is so personal, just a little bit about me. I'm a Bangladeshi immigrant married to an Afghan refugee who I met here in New York City. And the story of the Afghan war had resonated deeply within the community here. So to hear this story is really amazing. I also quickly want to acknowledge that the story ended with, changing from hate to understanding, and that is the mission of our work. And I can't do this work alone. My amazing team, our hate crimes prevention coordinator, Ajifanta, Mariam Khaldi, our community education team, we do this work every day. We go to schools, we go to hospitals, we go to public offices to teach the community about who we are as Muslim Americans. And so much of what I heard from you, Mac, were certain narratives that you were told, I feel, right? I heard these are people who kill non-believers, they'll have a sword on me in the basement. So these are narratives that you've heard, and yet you were able to make such a transformation. So if I could ask you the first question of, was this process of change gradual, or was there a specific moment that you found to be like the aha moment for you, that to turn around and change your mind?
Was that to change it for the better, or when I
For the
changed
better.
it? Okay, yes. So it was during that whole process. It was the way the community treated me, first and foremost, because that was what I saw. And I took their advice. And I also thought I had all the evidence I needed when they handed me the Quran. I read the Quran. I went back and I got explanations about what it said, because there are things that come up that are like, what? I got explanations. And it was just a process over that period of time that made me understand I was wrong. I was completely wrong. I was judging something very large off the actions of a few. It's what we do in society now, every day.
So, it's not often we come across a story like this, right? So I want to ask Joshua and maybe Suzanne, what made you want to choose this story, and what made you want to tell this story? Maybe Suzanne?
Yeah, so when I came to work on this film, Josh had already made a 5-minute film just about Mac. And so I was sort of looking with him to see if there was something more than sort of Mac telling his story. And it was when we started talking to Bibi and Saber that we realized that this was a story about community. And, every individual in that community has their own story of transformation, and that they took what they learned in their own lives, and every day, pass it forward and pay it forward. And it's inspiring. Clearly was so inspiring for Mac, and it's inspiring for the community, and it's inspiring when audiences see it. And it was, it's incredibly moving, I think, for us as filmmakers to get the opportunity to tell a story that is, you don't have to bend the story to see the humanity and see the transformation. It's there. It's, it's real. And I think we just recognized how powerful it was to just let the people who experienced it sort of tell that truth. Yeah.
That's amazing. Thank you. And Pam, I guess you can relate with me because we are in the same kind of work of shaping narratives and shaping minds and deepening understanding. How is this film relevant to your mission and the work that you do at Facing History?
Sure, thank you. So I work at Facing History in ourselves, and for those of you who don't know, we're an international nonprofit organization that works with teachers in schools, and our mission is really to get teachers to work with their students, high school and middle school students, to stand up against hate and bigotry, and we do that by studying history. And I was so struck with the film on so many levels because our work, which is through curriculum and through teacher training and support and coaching of teachers, is to really look at the hard history. And there were so many moments in this film and so many quotes things that Mac said that brought me back to moments in history that we study. For example, in the Holocaust, we talked about the dehumanization of the other. This is a major theme that we look at with our students, and our teachers take our students deep into that examination of how things like this, small steps like this, begin when we talk about genocide or mass violence. It begins with looking at the other person. Do you see them as human? Do you consider them as part of something called your universe of obligation? And if you can start othering that person and pushing them aside and seeing them as less than human, it makes the killing easier, it makes the hatred easier, et cetera. So what we try to do is really look at history and use history as a tool to try to change, obviously, the future. And I think the other message in this film is, this radical empathy and welcoming that the Muslim community had and sharing of stories and just getting to know each other. And so we help students through first-person accounts in history to understand the human element of people. And once you understand their story, the stereotypes start to fall apart and so forth. So that's really, I think, where we are in the same business. It's a long game. It's a prevention measure, but these individual stories are what makes a difference, and these speak to students, and they speak to teachers.
Absolutely. Thank you. Mac, I want to just go back to you and asking, have you faced any challenges in, having accepted Islam, what were some challenges that you faced, or from the community or otherwise, you know, and in shaping who you are and so forth?
It's really just motivated me a little bit more. I've been rejected by my extended family. My dad and my mom has passed, but my stepmom, they want nothing to do with me, and aunts and uncles and whatever. I've had an estranged relationship forever, as you could, early on, you heard that. I ended up getting a divorce. I am now remarried to a devout Christian, actually. And I've had some death threats, you know. But considering the first part of my life and all of the combat and everything else like that, I just tell people, I said, you know what, if people just all of a sudden stopped wanting to kill me, I'd probably go through some kind of separation anxiety. I don't need that added to my dossier.
That's great. One other thing that struck me was that the Islamic Center of Muncie was founded by an Afghan, a Syrian, and a Bangladeshi, right? It kind of shows the diversity of America, of course, and the immigrant communities that come here. We know that in New York City, Muslims come from over 75 different countries. It is incredibly diverse. If you go to any borough or any neighborhood, you're going to find like a specific ethnic mosque in New York City. But that's not the same, I think, for the rest of the country. So as filmmakers, Josh, Suzanne, what are your what are your goals with this film? Of course, we know some, but what's next? What are some other projects you have in mind?
Well, I just wanted to add one thing to what Max said before I answer that, which is he mentioned that he just got remarried in October, actually, and the wedding, his wedding, was officiated by Zabar, and Bibi cooked all the food for the wedding, so it was really quite something. In terms of our goals, you know, we're planning to work with Facing History. We're very excited about that, and you know, they have a tremendous reach. I think it's over 170,000 teachers use the curriculum. So we're going to be showing the film in middle schools and high schools throughout the country. So that's one thing. And then we're also planning to screen the film to evangelical communities, as well as veteran communities. So we have a lot of plans down the road we're very excited about, because we think that the film can have an impact on people who see it. And, you know, I just always think about, you know, my middle school age self. I feel like if I had seen this film when I was 12, I think it would probably stay with me. And that's what we're hoping will happen when we start really sharing it.
Thank you. Suzanne, any thoughts on next projects or what to do with this?
I mean, we have some other projects in the work that are sort of stepping stones from this, but I don't know if we can speak publicly about it yet. But yeah, I think using it as a tool across the country, not just in, you know, New York City and sort of diverse communities, but bringing it to communities that are less diverse as a teaching tool, I think is really powerful. We're excited about the year ahead.
That's great. Thank you. Should we go into the audience for questions? Yeah.
We'll pass you a microphone. One
Microphone,
second.
I think. Yeah.
Mac, I'm wondering how you now think about the time you spent in Afghanistan as part of the U.S. military and the mission you were on. How do you look back on that now?
That's a good question. Nobody's really ever asked me that one. I look back, and not just Afghanistan, throughout my whole career. I joined the Marine Corps, retired from the Army. It's a long story, trust me. But a lot of things, there's a lot of shame involved. A lot of shame. A lot of people can sit and say, well, it was a decision you had to make. It was, you or them, right? There's some truth to that. But a lot of times that really was not the story. And that's where the shame comes in. I would like to make an announcement that over this last weekend, I have finally come to grips with a lot of things, and I have finally forgiven myself. Thank you. Because I see what I'm doing now. And people have come up to me and told me of what a difference that things I've said or these films, what it's meant to them and others. And, I'm almost, I'm maxed out on my Facebook friends, for crying out loud. People are just like sponges on everything I got to say, so I have to watch myself, and because of that, and because of other things that have happened during the course of me and Josh meeting, I got a lot to be proud of now, not ashamed of. So.
That's great. Hi. So I want to thank you for making this film. Excuse me, I have a laryngitis. Thank you, Mac, for being willing to share your story with us so openly and humanely. I'm thinking about the veteran population because I'm a psychologist. I know a lot of people who work at the VA, work with veteran groups, PTSD and all of it. I saw a lot in your suffering in the aftermath of coming back and what it was like for you. And I know for so many, they cannot separate themselves from it, how desperate you felt. And I wonder if you have any thoughts about, besides just showing the film, because this film is very powerful, but I know how deeply wounded a lot of these folks are. So I wonder if you have any thoughts about how to reach them and prevention, because a lot of them, I think, have a lot of the thoughts that you had to get back at and to continue what you were brainwashed to think and believe. And so I wonder if you could share some thoughts on that.
Sure. I've been hoping for a question similar to this anyway, because I wanted to explain a lot of things. I will never go to the extreme to say that anyone in the military is brainwashed. Mainly because, number one, it's a voluntary army, okay? But way that I went about things, and like I said, I went to somebody to ask about how you cope with this, right? Because I still have a job to do. We're still humans. We still make choices. We still make decisions, and we still have to be accountable for them. The problem that we see now with our veterans, our returning veterans, and this is why I was glad that you asked this, is because, see, when you come back, it's a process. When you come back, you go through processing, and then you're released, right? And you answer questions. They give you forms, fill them out, check the boxes. 99% of your military people will not check a box that says they have any issue whatsoever because they just want to go home. Mm-hmm. And if they check that box, they can't go home right away. They got to stay and talk to people. Mm-hmm. That's problem number one. And problem number two is stigma. It's gotten better. It really has gotten better in just the past 10, 20 years. But it still has a long way to go, I make a lot of jokes about mental health, but I figure I can because I am one. But it's the fact of getting them to where they feel comfortable. Because I've heard veterans say stuff like, well, they'll take my guns away. Dude, nobody wants your guns. Nobody's going to take your guns away. And if you really feel that way about it, maybe they should take them away. Just saying. I don't own a weapon. Contrary to popular belief, I'm a Muslim now. I don't need a gun. So, yeah, but that's that.
We got it. We have a question. The microphone's being passed to someone up there.
Thank you, Mr. Mack, and thank you for the effort put into this film.
Thank you.
I just wanted to ask you if you had a brief moment to go back to your past self, and this understood as us probably having a brief moment to encounter somebody that thinks as you used to think. What would be a good phrase or effective way to say, stop, it is not like you think it is? Because I believe hatred stems from not knowing enough or from ignorance. So what would be a good phrase to get a conversation going, saying, hey, we're all human beings?
So I can answer that by conversations I've had with other people. Find out where they're coming from first, right? Find out where their biases lie and why. Because, you know, of course we all know, or we should all know, that we do have biases, every one of us, it doesn't matter, right? But when that bias becomes such a powerful part of your life, it becomes dark and evil. And if we can head it off before that point, that's great, but you got to understand what their foundation is first. Their socioeconomics, how they were raised, what their belief systems are, you know, and because a lot of this hatred is all rooted into those things, you know, and they're not willing to give anybody else the benefit of the doubt because they're wrong. Period. They just need to go, right? So that would be it first. I would listen before I would speak. I used to joke around and say if I ever ran into my past self, I'd punch myself dead in the throat and say, now you can get up and we can talk. But, you know, but honestly, no, it's about listening before you speak. And that goes for everybody, for anything.
If I could just add, in a Facing History classroom, one of the skills we teach our teachers is around civil discourse, which is something obviously we are struggling with in our own country right now, but the ability to listen, doing a lot of writing and journaling and all sorts of different kinds of techniques teachers have, and creating a contract. Obviously, I know your example was someone on a street and it might have been escalating, et cetera, but I'm talking about even prevention before that, of really teaching young people the skills of how to engage in difficult conversations, how to hear the other, how to listen, and then listening is the beginning of building empathy and understanding.
Sir, we're going to pass you a microphone so you can,
okay.
so everyone can hear.
A little bit better. Do you think if you had gone into some other temple, synagogue, church, you might have gotten the same kind of reception? And was that particular Islamic center aberrational? Was it, and for Americans, we don't really know the difference so much, at least many of us, between Sunnis and Shias. Was this Islamic center aimed in with one particular facet of the faith? I mean, it's a big question, I'm sorry, but I leave it in your hands.
That's a good question. That is a very good question. I can't answer if I would have went somewhere else, would the outcome been the same? I can't speak for other Islamic communities. I'm not a part of them. I don't know them. I've met a lot of them. And for what I have to say, for the most part, I think they're wonderful. But that's not to say there's not a bad one. You know, we know there's bad churches out there. I'm sure there's bad synagogues somewhere. You know, I mean, I don't know. I've only been to one synagogue, actually, and it was in Muncie. And, you know, so, I mean, so really what I'm saying is that we're no different. Each of the religions are no different in the people, because people are people. Just because this person might be rotten doesn't mean the whole community's rotten, doesn't mean the whole faith is rotten. And that's why we need to look at Christianity, at Islam, Judaism, and all of them, because the faiths in themselves, you know, Christianity, Judaism, Islam, they all have a message, and the message is the same. It's about love. It's about peace, about coming together. So why are we fighting? I don't know. But on the other side of that, and excuse me, I got blown up, so I tend to forget things. So you wanted to know about if I would have went somewhere else, if I would have been the same outcome. I can't answer that because I don't know. And what was the other part? I'm sorry.
About
Oh,
Sunni.
thank you. So I don't get into the Shia Sunni thing. Somebody asked me one time what kind of Muslim I was. I just looked at him. I actually copied a line from one of the sheikhs on YouTube, right? I'm a fat white Muslim. There you go. There you go.
We have time for we'll take these last three questions.
Well, first of all, I want to thank Mac for sharing the story with us and with the world. And I strongly relate to the movie because as a Muslim and a woman wearing hijab, I get all these looks like, what are you doing here? Go back to your country. And we're always seen as the threat to the community. So I'm really happy to see some great people doing efforts and trying to shed light on how prejudgment and stereotyping are hurtful and traumatizing. And I'm really grateful for that. And I want to ask Mac, looking back at this period of your life, at this moment, when you went to the Islamic Center, wanted to bomb the center, and things changed, what made you receptive to the Islam and to people over there? I know that some other people, even if the good hits them in their eyes, they won't see it. They are stubborn and hard-headed, and they have a plan. They will do it no matter what. So looking back at this moment, what made you receptive to the goodness in the Islamic community?
So I think the film depicted that perfectly, actually. And since it's Martin Luther King Jr. Day, let's have a quote. Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hatred cannot drive out hatred. Only love can do that. That's what they showed me, is love. And then, of course, as I was reading and studying, it came to me. I was looking for evidence now, mind you. I wasn't looking to learn about Islam. I thought I already knew everything I needed to know, right? I was looking for the evidence, plain and simple, tangible evidence. It wasn't meant to be. So, like we say in Islam, mashallah, right? It's God's will.
Mac, if I could quickly ask you, where were you getting your information from about Islam prior to coming into the Islamic Center at Muncie? What would you say was the largest form of information you would get about Muslims?
The ones that were holding AK-47s.
And there was a lot of that, I know, in a lot of films.
We have a question up on top.
Yes, hi.
Oh, Joshua.
You're an alumni of the Fox News university or something like that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I got frequent flyer miles with Fox News. I'm trying to figure out how to put a lock on my TV now, though, so that never even comes up. So.
I just wanted to say thank you for the ending of this movie. I came without knowing much about it, and it felt like it was going in a different direction, and I was very, very happy to see the ending. It gave me hope. And thank you all for doing what you do to spread the word of love and acceptance. Sometimes my curiosity is bigger than my ability to articulate it, so I think simply, has your opinion changed about war as an answer to figuring out our problems? Yeah. You're the soldier.
I was hoping you got it. So, my whole goal now is peace, love, understanding. That's my whole goal. My wars are over. Unfortunately, not all of them will be over. Everybody else is going to have a war, you know. Unfortunately, as we've seen, anybody that's taken a history class knows that sometimes they're just inevitable. And a lot of it's perpetrated by greed, the almighty dollar. And we don't, me, myself, I mean, I have a degree in social work, so you know I'm broke, right? I'm not about money. It's just, you know, if I have it, I have it. If I don't, I don't. Whatever. But if we can come together as a people, and this is why I tell people, you know, it's like, especially here in America, because America is one of the best places, I think, to do this because of the way our freedoms allow us to be. You know, it's a government for the people, of the people, right? My question is, where's the people? I don't know. And wars can be prevented. Hatred cannot be prevented. Inevitably. You have to have hatred. And the reason for that is because without hatred, you can't have love. There's like an opposites there. That's a philosophical thing that I fully don't understand to explain, so I'm sorry. But yeah, so you got to have one or you can't have the other. But it's what we do with that hatred. I hate lima beans and the New England Patriots. But that doesn't make me a bad guy, right? Maybe in New England it does, but whatever. But, you know, we all have something. If we can find out what that is and control that and be one with our neighbors, regardless of where they came from, what they look like, how they pray, or what books they read, doesn't matter. This is what we need to do in this room. It starts with us. I've been told that I've touched all kinds of people. Never in a million years have I ever thought that that would happen, unless it was physically. That was the old me. There was a guy who wrote a comment after the film came out, and it was online, and it really sums it all up. It sums up everything, and it's what keeps me going. He said, if some guy like you, tough guy, can change the way he thinks about things, I guess I can too. That's it.
Great note.
Unfortunately, we are out of time. There's a lot more to discuss. I want to end by actually asking you all to say what, maybe just in a couple of moments, what should people do next? Where should they go? What should they've been inspired by the film, by this conversation. What should they do with that energy?
I'll start, and Mac, you've pointed out it's something really important, which is that we do in America, the great thing is that we do have some form of power. Citizens have some form of power. And what we do is advocate and educate our communities about civic education, about how to vote, when to vote, what to vote on. Right now, we're actually in the city, we've drafted a legislation, Resolution 1257, that will introduce religious diversity education in New York City public schools, K through 12, not only in middle school, but K through 12, so that the understanding of our diverse communities and neighbors begins right in the beginning. So we're working on that, and we have a press conference February 2nd by City Hall, which we invite all of you to get more information out in the front. But citizen power, educating, and civic education is part of our work.
I mean, as sort of someone who experienced learning about this story in a similar way to all of you, just before we did the filming, I think, you know, Bibi's sort of, her whole approach to life and humanity and community is incredibly inspiring, and I encourage everyone to remember how Bibi behaved in this story and pay it forward in your own life, and be curious about the strangers in your life, and be curious about the people who look different than you, who act different than you, because you know, it's what's going to bring the community together.
Yeah, and just to jump on that, because that's what I was going to talk about. Throughout the course of this film and going around to different places in these premieres, you know, people have designated me some kind of a hero. I am no hero. Not the hero to this story, that's for sure. Bibi's the hero. My daughter's the hero. That community is the hero. We actually came up with a saying. What will Bibi do? That's it. Be more like Bibi.
I would just add that to advocate for this kind of education in our public schools and in all of our schools. Facing History is working in thousands of schools across the country and globally, and we just need to do more of it and have these types of lessons and discussions and look hard so we can prepare young people to be ready to take on and to be a Bibi. We call them upstanders, and ultimately that's what we need to be grooming and teaching and practicing, because it takes practice. This doesn't happen overnight. It needs to be nurtured by great teachers and by great parents and communities. So, thank you.
Joshua?
Sure. So when we finished this film, before we shared it with the world, we wanted to show it to the Islamic Center of Muncie and see what they thought. And so we set up a screening, and about 80 people came. And, you know, I was nervous because I didn't know if they would like the film or not like the film. And when it was finished and they turned the lights on, one guy stood up in the back of the room and raised his hand. And he said, what can we do to make sure that every American sees this film? And those words stick with me and my team, and we feel that's our obligation now, is how do we do that in some way, or at least try to do that. And right now this film is available. It's on YouTube. It's free. You can share it. You can post it on your Facebook page and tell people to watch it. You can show it to your mother or your kid or your racist uncle or whoever, you know, whoever you want to show it to. But it's there intentionally so that we can get it out there and people can share it and see it and spread it widely. So I guess I would say, I ask you if you're up for it to share the film and tell people about it, because we want as many people to see it as possible.
Thank you all. It won't be as good as this, but we'll share this conversation as well, so you'll have access to it all.